Hi guys, this is Si from Sinai Software. Today we're going to talk about, this is the intro to SiClone, and this is our new big update for SiClone. We've added quite a lot of this stuff to it. We've added sweeps and the ability to build a lot more complex items out of this. So let's get going. First I'm going to talk about our sweep objects and mapping. So the way this works is you apply your material to the spline that you're actually going to sweep. And let's just go in and we'll look at the material real quick for this one. And this is just a basic one-to-one mapping. SiClone will figure out its own mapping for whatever you need. So let's go through and we'll grab this and we will add our distribution path, which is where we want our road to go down. And we will add our first object, which is our sweep, which is our road. Now, this will dynamically figure out what it needs. And actually, I'm going to detach this from our path. And I'm going to grab our path and just slide this up. That way, it's just sort of high enough and I can sort of make all the adjustments I need to make without having to select the road. I'll be able to select the spline a little easier. So, first thing is, like I said, it retopologizes for what it needs. So if I was to go in here and say redefine, and put a spline in there itself, and let's turn this to a smooth. So if you look at, it's going to sort of figure out, does it need to retopologize this as it goes. So you don't end up with, on really straight roads, you don't end up with a whole bunch of mesh that you don't need. It's sort of just one of those things that it'll clean it up as it needs to, or retopologize as it needs to. So with that said, let's just sort of get rid of that and let's just go ahead and we'll sort of start building up our road. Alright, so there's our first piece of geometry. Let's get in now. We have a curb, a walkway, some barriers, a railing, some end objects, street lights, all sorts of little stuff that we're going to throw in here. And we're also going to throw in probably some omni lights on, on each one of these lights as well. So let's go grab our next one. And our next one is our curb. And so you can see that came in at the center. So what we're going to do is grab our curb and just slide it out to the edge and get it to our right height. And just zoom in here a little bit so I can see what's going on. So I'll just bring this down and in a little bit. Oops. All right. So we've got our curb object in there. Now, instead of having to bring this in and put it on the other side, we have a mirror offset. So you can just simply go mirror it to the other side. And if you didn't have your road exactly in the center, it's got its own mirror offset as well. And we'll go now grab our walkway and sort of get that positioned around. So let's just go grab our walkway, slide this out and up, and that's good. And we'll do the same thing. We want to mirror that, and then we'll grab our edge barrier, and we'll say we're going to name this, I'm going to rename this one. So we have our edge divider. I'm just going to go in here and say side, so I'm going to put a middle divider in as well. So it doesn't go rename your spline, it just renames what you have in your sweep stack. So let's go sort of move this up and out. So we'll get this back over here. And we'll shift this up a little bit. And then shift that out. That's good. And we'll also mirror that to the other side. And then what we're going to do is bring in our underneath part of our bridge. So let's just take that bridge structure, bring that out, adjust that down, and we'll mirror that to the other side as well. So good. We've got nice little bit of road here, make it nice and easy. So You know, it's still all scalable, still texture. You know, it manages all your textures for you and everything. All right, let's get in. Let's get in some end objects here. So I'm going to grab this end object, and these are going to be ends on the center barrier. So let's just select our SiClone, add our first object. And you can see right now we're in individual patterns. So by default, you come in as that. If you're doing a fence or something simple, or a parking lot, you're going to want to use more of a random or ordered pattern. But for sort of a little more complex stuff like building an overpass, we're going to use individual. That way it sort of sets up the spacing itself is for individual objects themselves. All right, but this is an end object, so we do have special buttons. So we have make post or make end. So we're going to make this object an end, and you can see it's done that. It hangs off the end because its pivot point was probably in the center of the object. So let's go and we'll select that, and we'll say start offset. And I want to make sure that this is on the road as well, so I'm going to have to lower it down just a little bit. And then we'll do our end offset, and we could probably just copy this and paste it on the end, and there we go. So we have our ends, and now let's just bring in a barrier itself again. So we'll do that center barrier, and we'll have to line this up to our objects. So let's just go end barrier, and we'll raise this up, and we'll just shift it in. There we go. And we're going to want to bring its end offset as well. So let's go get the start offset down, and then we'll go over and we'll do the end offset on this. So you can see it's scalable. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. You have the freedom to sort of change a lot of settings in this. So it's basically like an advanced sweep, but simple and easy to use. All right, let's go in and throw some street lights in this. So we'll grab street lights, and we can go grab that, and let's just shift this to the edge. So we'll go down here, we'll shift it up a little bit. And there we go. Spacing for now, let's just set this at 2000. And we'll give it an end of 100 and a start offset of 100. All right. Let's mirror this to the other side as well. Oops, that's mirror rotation. Mirror this to the other side. That looks good. Now I'm going to add a light to this. So let's just throw in a simple omni. So that's all we need. We'll do some fall off and whatnot. But for this tutorial, we don't need to get into, getting that deep into it. So let's grab our SiClone, and just like any other object, you can select a light. Now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to select our street light, which we had, and I'm going to copy the settings, and I'm going to go to our Omni, and I'm going to paste them. Now it's put it at our same pivot of our light. Now this is where I'm going to now go individually slide this up, so we'll get it at the right height. But so these end up in the same spots, because it's going to figure it out on curves and road corners and everything like that. What I'm going to want to do is not shift the object. I'm going to want to move the object from its pivot position. So right there and up. So this will give me, they'll sort of stay in place when I sort of add curves in this road, because the individual spacing on a corner is going to be tighter on this side than it is on the outside. So you get street lights spaced up, which is going to actually change where your light was from your light post if they are not in the same exact spacing and position. So that's where we have this little setting here of moving the object from its pivot point. It's just a little more fine tuning. All right. Now, also with this, let's just go, I'm going to make an example here. I'm going to grab this, I'm just going to slide this down, and let's just go but redefine this really quick and turn this into a smooth, and I'm going to bring this out. Okay, so you're going to see, what you're seeing now is these aren't exactly across from each other now, because what it's doing is it's figuring out the spacing, the 2000, to keep it normal in its spot. But you can see its omni is lined up correctly with the light. Now, in some cases, you might not want this. So let's actually just go, actually I'm going to turn the stepping just a little more up on this, just for our example. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to add our bridge structure. So let me just go pick this. And we have our bridge structure. And let's just go down, where is it? Support. And let's make this, say, 2000 as well. Now, because this is a bridge, and let's just sort of, let's lower this down and slide it out just so it's at the edge. Because this is a bridge, if we mirrored this over, let's just get this slid out to the edge. If we were to mirror this, just say mirror to the other side, they're not going to line up. You're going to have sort of less on this side and more on the other side. Now we have this make exact mirror. You can turn this on, and then it is truly giving you a support across from a support. So depending on what you're doing, you're going to want different things. So actually, let me just raise these up just a little bit and kick them in. There we go. So depending on what you're going to do, you might want to mirror exact, or when you mirror to the other side. So it sort of all has to do with like sort of a spacing issue. All right, so let's just, now let's get rid of you, and we'll just get this back to a little smaller shape, and we'll continue working on this. All right, so we're almost there for what we're doing here. I'd like to put in the rails as well. So what I'm going to do is just go back to SiClone. I'm going to add in, this is a rail object. And actually, while I'm there, let's just add the two railings as well. So they're going to be sweep objects, and they're just sort of hiding behind. So we'll grab these. We have a circle here and a circle there. All right, so let's grab our, let's see, our last one is our railing. So we're going to need to slide this all the way out and then up, just to sort of get it into the space. We probably want an offset on this. So I'm going to say 20 and 20. All right, and let's just make sure that we do have this sitting down properly. And maybe a little more into the center. All right, good. All right, so I can mirror that to the other side as well. And now, well, I can go grab one of our support bars. And let's get that in there as well. So let's slide this out and up. And we'll slide that to the top. Now we want to do some offset on this because we don't want the bar to come out. So let's just slide that down, and we'll do the same thing. Set the end offset to 18. And let's just say this is a game asset. We want this to be a little lower poly. So we can bring down the stepping on our overall shape. If it has, you want to use it's changing the interpolation of your shape. So if you had all corner knots on this, of course, it's not going to, you're not going to notice any difference on the interpolation. So, but being straight or using curved knots, you can definitely see this interpolation. So, all right, it's got enough smoothing groups, it'll be fine being that low. All right, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to bar 2 and say paste, and then I'm just going to lower that down to give our second bar. And then I can mirror that and select the other side and mirror that. So there we go. We have our bridge overpass, and it's, like I said, nice and scalable. Create a line, you can just draw out whatever you want to do, and it's good to go. So that's our basic intro to our new SiClone update. Oh, one other thing I forgot to bring in is our display modes. So we have a couple of different display modes. You can just display as dots, so that'll basically give you a point wherever an object or a knot is on your shape. We can display as bounding box, so it'll give you sort of a little idea of what you got going. We have point cloud, and you can adjust that. The scaling is just on objects themselves. There's just going to be the same thing as you would have on dot for when it comes to shapes. We have pyramid, so just going to display all your objects as pyramids, but give you your full sweeps. Squirrel mode, of course, everybody needs that, and your original object. Then also in here, you can actually save these assets out or export them in. We have color variation, so you can actually add a hue, shift, and saturation to your scattered objects. Not your sweeps, because that's all one piece of geometry. And then you can actually export this out. So you can take this out to multiple mesh, single mesh, or export this out to multiple proxies. So, thanks a lot, guys, and see you.